I want to have an arabesque competition. Really, arabesque is so essential for a ballet dancer. Give you that beautiful lines. And we do so much of go through arabesque. So that has to be, don't tense. Really find that relaxation going up. Ready? And arabesque. I believe ballet is art form that make a profound differences in people's lives. So if you produce some of the best, most exciting or most emotional productions and dances, you will create that sense of happiness or sense of something special, magical that you can give to people. So I think ballet is one of the most powerful, most rewarding, satisfying art forms you can ever be involved in. And it does make a huge difference in the lives of others in our society. Ballet has really given me a life. I would be forever grateful, and that's precisely the reason why I do want to give something back to this beautiful art form, and I do want to help the new generation of dancers to reach their potential.
Working with Lee is really special, firstly for the obvious fact that he is Lee Xuanxing. He's a big name and he's had a huge career. He's an impressive human being, but what I love most is that he really understands life as a dancer and he directs with that in mind. He's really got the dancer's best intentions in his heart and he wants to make it a really beautiful working environment for the dancers.
I actually read his book when I was a student. Lee was actually a guest speaker with Lord Mayor, and me and my dancing partner were invited to dance a little piece before the gala started, and that was actually the first time I danced in front of Lee. I was so starstruck, obviously, seeing Lee in real life and him watching me dance. I don't know if he remembers, but I even got my book signed by him, so we were all very aware of his story, and it was very touching to sort of know what he's been through. And now that I've known more about his personal family stories and how he made it in his career, it really is inspiring to be just working with him and learn from him.
I was born in China in 1961 in Mao's China. I was the sixth of 7 peasant boys. We grew up very poor. We were poverty-stricken, really. Often, my mother was so desperate trying to get enough food for us to eat before we went to bed. And the temperature in my hometown could get down to 15 to 20 degrees below zero at winter time. The childhood experiences was all about hunger. So all about, trying to get enough warm clothes to wear in the winter time so you don't freeze to death. And at the times I was born in China, between 1958 to 1961, there were roughly between 35 to 40 million people died of starvation. So I was born right into that time. And my poor parents tried desperately to keep us all alive. When I was about age 11, some of the teachers from the Beijing Dance Academy were sent all across China looking for talents to study ballet. Of course, we knew nothing about ballet. We didn't have dance, we didn't have music. Our life struggles were so far removed from those kind of entertainment type of art forms in China then. They went through millions of kids that year and they selected 44. So I was one of the lucky 44 kids being chosen. So that moment changed my entire life. Just turning 11, I went to Beijing Dance Academy to study ballet. We were there for 7 years. Our training regime was brutal. We started from 5:30 in the morning to 9 o'clock at night. 6 days a week we trained. At first I hated it. I did not like ballet. I didn't make any connection to what I wanted in my life, which was to help my family, help my parents. So the whole time I felt so guilty that I had more to eat, better things to eat than my family. And I was at the bottom of the pile. I was on the verge, virtually on the verge of being sent back home. That's when a wonderful teacher, we call him Teacher Xiao, came into my life. And he was inspirational. He was a mentor, he had a vision, he was disciplined. He really wanted us to become the best. So it was through his encouragement, through his nurturing and help, I eventually discovered my passion for ballet. And that was the turning point. Once I fell in love with ballet, that was the moment I was really willing to work hard. So I would get myself up at 5 o'clock in the morning, often earlier, when others are still deep asleep. I would strap heavy sandbags on both my ankles. I hop one leg up and down on 4 levels of stairs, try to give myself that strength in my legs to jump. So eventually I kept on improving, and when I graduated at the end of the 7th year, 1979, I was widely considered one of the best dancers China had ever produced. That was the same year America sent their first cultural delegation to China under Nixon. And in that group, there was Ben Stevenson, the artistic director of the Houston Ballet, who taught 2 master classes in my academy and eventually offered 2 scholarships to study in America. And I was one of them. With the help of George Bush Sr. and Barbara Bush, because Barbara Bush was on the board of the Houston Ballet at the time, we quickly got our visas. So then a friend of mine and I, 2 boys, we left to go to America on scholarship at age 18. It was really a big shock when I first went to America. Particularly, I think looking back, it was during my time, China was virtually only started opening up. And for so many years under the Mao's propaganda, communist propaganda, we were basically brought up believing we were the most privileged, luckiest children on earth. And we lived the most divine lives. So America was really a sort of dark place to be. So of course, I had this quite scary image of the West world, particularly America. So when I arrived there, I couldn't believe the extent of the society's development, the freedom they have, the prosperity they enjoyed. I think what shocked me the most was the degree of the freedom people lived in their lives and the opportunities for them to do whatever they wanted to. They can dream as big as they want. Nobody's going to say, no, you can't do that. As long as you're willing to work hard, the sky was the limit. And that's what really drove home for me. I just kept wondering, what if I have that kind of freedom and opportunity? What could I possibly achieve to do? What kind of dreams I could possibly dare myself to dream as big, as grand, as exciting as possible. And then after that, I fell in love with a beautiful girl, and I married her and nearly lost my life over that. I have gone into the Chinese consulate in Houston explaining about my decision to stay in America a little bit longer with my wife. My intention then was to be able to go back to China, to dance there part of the time, maybe half the year, and then come back to the West, dancing part of the time. But the Chinese officials at the consulate at that time took the matter into their own hand and locked me up in the consulate for over 21 hours. It was the darkest 21 hours of my life. I really feared that my life would be lost that night. I was interrogated throughout most of that evening. One of the worst thoughts crossed my mind, really scared me, was what would happen to my parents and my beloved 6 brothers if I stayed in America. But at the end of it, I felt one has to live one's life with integrity, with honesty, with dignity. And that was the values my parents have taught us, which I held dear to my heart. So eventually I refused to go back to China on their terms. And they didn't recognize my marriage, which made me even more furious. So we came to a standoff. But what I didn't realize was during that standoff, FBI heard the news. They eventually surrounded the consulate and sealed the airport. Finally took the Vice President Bush and also eventually even President Ronald Reagan was involved to negotiate my release directly with the Chinese leader Deng Xiaoping at the time. So to my utter surprise, the most unbelievable thing was I eventually was granted the permission to leave the Chinese consulate in Houston after I virtually gave up all hope that night. Once I gained my freedom to the Western world, my biggest wish was to be able to become an ambassador to provide that bridge between the East and West through my art form, through ballet, which is a non-political art form, and be able to maybe help bridge that difference between China and the West. So I think largely I've done that throughout my life because deep inside me, I would never turn my back on China, no matter how challenged the situation might be, because I love the people, I love the country I was born into. So there is still a lot of deep feelings that I want to be able to make a contribution. Last year, I took the Kunshan Ballet to perform in China, 4 major cities in China, and I hope we'll continue to do so. And we have formed a sister company relationship with the Shanghai Ballet. So I hope there will be a lot of cultural exchanges between the two companies. And for us, I want to be able to take the best art form and the world-class dancers that we have in the company to perform in front of the Chinese people. I believe for my company, for any company, that gender diversity, that multinational diversity, cultural diversity is very important because everybody has something to contribute from their own cultures, their own cultural experiences and background. So in our company, we have 8 or 9 nationalities, which is just make it into this whole working environment so much more cohesive, exciting, and diverse. And that kind of diversity just contribute to the social fabric of this company. And I think as a result, we become better people. Our lives are enriched because of that. And then because they become better people, better artists, the impact they will be able to project on stage for the audience is become that much more powerful. I was one of the beneficiaries of that cultural diversity. And for a Chinese person from the Eastern world, standing on the Western stages, standing tall and proud to dance The Prince in Swan Lake, which is a Western story, and to be viewed as one of the top international ballet dancers, not because the shape of my face, not because my color skin's olive, is because what I've achieved in the art form. Everybody should have that opportunity, should have a chance. I mean, I loved my dancing. It was just nothing could compare to it. That exhilaration, that satisfaction, that sense of achievement at the end of it is truly special. But I have to say, standing now on the other end of it, coaching them, teaching them, trying to pass on your experiences, encourage them to take risks, experiment, explore, that excites me. And when I see them actually make their own discoveries because of my encouragement or my nurturing or my challenges is so satisfying. When I watch them to do a wonderful performance, I think I'm probably happier for them than when I have done a good performance myself. I'm inspired to make a difference. I want to make a difference in our dancers' lives, in the new generation of aspiring ballerinas and dancers' lives. But also I'm inspired to make a difference to our society through this beautiful art form. What really keeps me smiling and excited is when I realize the art form brings happiness, change people's lives. That's where I think it's all worth it. All the challenges, all the heartbreaking moments that I experience would just all seems that's why I'm still here That's why I should keep on smiling, because the end product, the end result is so special.